expected to come in here and talk about a ton Kirk Cousins game. And instead of spending the first 25 minutes on the defense, that you would have thought it's Monday Night Football, the big thing about him, Kirk versus the critics. And they tried to really push that last night on the ESPN broadcast, as everyone noticed on Twitter, about just, can Kirk do it? Can Kirk do it? And I am of a couple of different minds after this game and what it says about Kirk Cousins. A, he played pretty well, a pretty decent game for Kirk Cousins overall. He scored by Pro Football Focus a 66. It was like decent, which is okay. It's like average. All right, fine. He was not the reason they lost the game. The one ball that was intercepted probably should be at least knocked down by Diggs and really just great play by the other guy. But not a horrible throw. It's not like he just tossed it right to him. He didn't fumble. He didn't get sacked. He didn't look super nervous or anything like that. When he had Laquan Treadwell wide open, he didn't throw it in the stands. He threw it to him, and they got a 58-yard touchdown. He, at the end of the half, operated a really nice drive to put them up by 7 points, even though it was wonky and weird, but he still made the throws he needed to make. I thought it was mismanaged with the clock with Zimmer, but he got them there.
And that's not the only one that was mismanaged. I mean, Kirk talked about not running the hurry up.
And yes, and they should have. They should have.
Some of the situational boneheadedness with this offense, I don't know where do you put the blame on that?
I think even in training camp, we've seen Kirk Cousins struggle with this.
Yeah, these 2-minute drills. Run a 2-minute drill. Yeah.
Last year in Los Angeles at the end of the first half, they had a chance and they botched the clock. I think it's a quarterback and head coach co-joint effort. But still, you get the field goal, and he made some throws. The throw to Diggs is a great one, and he brings them back and scores some points. But at the end of the game, everyone tweeted at the same time, all in unison, this is it. This is you, Kirk. It's 34-30. You got the ball. You're on the road. You're facing an uphill battle without Adam Thielen in the game, without Riley Reif in the game, without Delvin Cook in the game. Go do it, man. It's on your shoulders. Go win us a big football game. And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that has been the story of Kirk Cousins in Minnesota too often. So even though I don't think Kirk Cousins was by any means the reason you lost, he wasn't the reason that you won. And that's what you need from him, and you haven't gotten since he's been a Viking.
Well, I will say, on that pass to Irv Smith, I was kind of concerned when I looked at watching it back and just thinking about play calling, why are you giving him a single read? Why didn't you throw in some option passes for him? Why didn't you give him a little bit more? Because in that moment, he's going to need as much support and as many options truly to make that happen on 4th and 3. And he didn't. And I don't put that all on Kirk. Like I said, in the first half, the only gaffe that I saw was the deciding not to go hurry up and beat the clock and beat Pete Carroll to throw in the flag. Kirk's statistically speaking, I've got it right here. In the first half, he averaged 3.4 air yards on his passes. It's not great. But I know Judd pointed this out on Twitter last night that when he was 10 of 12 at one point, I think he was 13 of 17 in the first half. The two incompletions because he threw it out of bounds because he made the right call.
Yeah,
because he was good.
He's done a much better job of that.
Yes, and I think that needs to be applauded because that's not Kirk from a year ago, not in Minnesota.
Yep.
But second half, he struggled, I don't put all those struggles on him because Diggs no-showed. He had 4 catches for 25 yards in the first half, and then he did nothing in the second half. You lose Dalvin Cook, that's obviously going to take away then your next best playmaker. And he still was able to get Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph involved, and Alexander Madison stepped up and filled a nice void.
Yeah, Madison did a great job, I thought,
for Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
So, Kirk's completion percentage in the second half was 43. That's the second worst of a half of his career. It's not great, but I honestly, I have a really hard time faulting him for this. I don't, he can't overcome a porous pass defense and a really bad run defense from last night. That's not on him to do that. The offense has bailed out this defense time and time and time again. And at some point, it's just going to be impossible to do. So, especially when the other person playing the same position that you do on the other side is Russell Wilson.
And that was the kicker of my article. Sorry to ruin it for myself at scorenorth.com. If you want to check it out, my reaction column was, you are not going to win a game with Kirk Cousins in which you have a ball bounce off your hands for an interception, in which you fumble, in which you have multiple injuries to good playing starters at key positions, and in which you give up 200 yards on the ground and 400 yards and 39 minutes of possession, all these things that everyone else did wrong. You're just not going to win a game with Kirk Cousins. But if you flip that around and look at Russell Wilson, he won the game. He made the big throws when he needed to make the big throws, even though he screwed up royally on a kind of a random bounce thing, but he messed that up royally. And his team, oh my gosh, did so many things wrong. Laquan Treadwell wide open, you could catch that ball and run that in for a touchdown. They completely botched that in the situation in which you absolutely cannot give up that play. And here's Seattle's defense. What's going on? I don't know. Why is there a receiver wide open running for a touchdown? They fumble when if they get a first down there, the game is basically over. And instead they fumble and give it right back to the Vikings. They did so many things wrong. And Russell Wilson found a way to overcome that and win the football game. And that's been the story of Kirk Cousins really for his career is, well, is it Kirk's fault? Not always, not really, not that much. And then here's Russell Wilson, who plays for, in my mind, a much worse team. And has
so?
yeah, I do. I don't think they're very good. I mean, even with Josh Gordon on that team, he hasn't really played that much. So they've got one good receiver.
I mean, just to factor it in, though, there were several guys who were not at 100% last night. I mean, Russell Wilson mentioned about Tyler Lockett having the flu, and that.
Yeah, another great point. Like they've got something up against them, and you won still. You're allowed to do that. I mean, that's how I would surmise the entire Kirk Cousins era in Minnesota. Yes, things went wrong. The other team won still. Is that okay? Are you allowed to do that? I mean, you look at their defense, Seattle's defense. Like they're not good. Mm-hmm. Their defense isn't good at all. They're a little better since they added Quadre Diggs, but they're not good. And it doesn't matter. They're 10-2. They keep winning. I mean, the Vikings still have a good record, and they've beaten teams that they're supposed to beat. But it's one of those things where we can go game to game and do these big presentations like the It's Always Sunny scene with where he's got all the things up on the board, and he's pointing, he's got the yarn connecting them and all that stuff. So we can be that guy who fills his office or his garage with news clippings and points to them and conspiracy theories. But what we always end up with is the same place. Well, that was a good team and you came up short. You didn't win.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from on that. But
you had the ball the last drive. Like you can win that game.
Well, he didn't.
You're supposed to.
He didn't fumble the ball on that drive. DJ Ham
did. The upgrade. That's the upgrade. It is the same thing from Los Angeles that you're referencing the fumble. It's the same deal. It's like Kirk played great in that game against Los Angeles last year. But at the end of the game, good team versus good team. Things went wrong for both teams. You got the ball. Go tie the game. And you didn't.
Yeah. Well, I just have a hard time. I will not put the blame on Cousins for this loss. I won't, because by and large, there were so many other issues. Like, he can't overcome everything. We know that he's not in that caliber of, I guess, that characterization of quarterbacks, like a Russell Wilson. Like you mentioned, all the things that went wrong, and Russell was still able to find a way to win. Kirk's never been that guy. And he played damn good last night. Back-to-back touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. He was responsible for that. He didn't miss the field. He didn't miss the PAT. Like, he didn't fumble the ball.
This is the both sides, because nothing you're saying is even remotely wrong. I mean, of course it's right. Like, make a PAT, or don't fumble when you get hurt, Delvin, or a million.
I'm talking about the CJ Ham fumble is
things.
One that just baffles my mind.
Right. If you have any chance left, which is very tiny, but you could still get a Hail Mary or something, and you fumble the ball away. Yes, a million people did things wrong. And then we still got to, unfortunately, the same place we always end up getting to, which is yet you were still right there and you didn't come through. And if you talk to people in DC, I'm sure it'd be the same thing, where every game becomes this huge analysis of, wait, did someone else do something wrong? Or did this guy, or what happened? No, we could have won the game at the end, but it wasn't really Kirk's fault, but it kind of was, because he didn't take the team anywhere and make a play at the end, right? We just go around in circles and circles and circles. But where I end up is in the playoffs. Now you have to go on the road and you have to win a game like that, probably, and they aren't likely to do it.
Probably not. Not the way they're playing right now, but I don't think that's on Kirk. Like, I will take the opposite viewpoint on this after seeing the way he's played in recent weeks and all that he did in the fourth quarter, and no one else showed up